Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Sports Card Advantage podcast. This is episode number 38. It is 9:13 p.m. Eastern Time on December 14th. As always, I am joined by my co-host, Bunk. What's going on, Bunk?
What's up? How you doing?
I am fantastic as usual. We got a special episode for everybody today. We have Ezra Levine, the CEO of the Collectable app, on the podcast today. We will be talking about fractional ownership, getting a little overview on the platform, some of the fun stuff that you can do on the platform, and then also talking about the major hobby event that Collectable is hosting out in Vegas, the Mint Collective. So we will be getting to that interview here in a minute. Just a quick Sports Card Advantage business. If you have questions that you want answered on the podcast, send us an email, info@sportscardadvantage.com. Follow us on social media, SportsCardADVTG on Instagram and Twitter. And happy to answer any questions through those platforms as well. And I think that's it for Sports Card Advantage business. You got anything else?
No, let's do it.
All right, so we will get right into the interview here. We did previously record this, so we're just going to drop that in right now. And then after the interview is over, we will be running down some of this week's investments and a few other things. Stay tuned. Alrighty, so we're going to bring on our guest. Let me introduce Ezra Levine. Ezra is the CEO of the Collectable app. How you doing today, Ezra?
I'm doing great, guys. You guys?
Yeah, we're doing
Awesome.
well. So on every interview that we do, you will be no different. We like to get your hobby origin story. So that entails, are you a collector? Are you in the hobby? Give us your hobby origin story. Let's establish some street cred a little bit here before we get into the interview.
You got it. Yeah, I mean, I think I have a pretty familiar story to a lot of people who kind of grew up in the late '80s, early '90s. I collected sports cards. It was kind of my first experience with kind of buying, selling, trading anything. It definitely was my first sort of entrepreneurial experience too. I remember sort of having cards and trading them all the time with my friends, and it was great. It was awesome. My dad has also been in the market, at a slightly higher end than I was back when I was growing up as a kid. And he's been in the market for as long as I can remember. I remember, every year he would go to the Nationals with his quote unquote hobby buddies. I had no idea what that term really meant at the time when I was growing up, but obviously, some of his closest friends to this day are collectors who we met through the hobby, right? So, and then, like a lot of people, obviously, I went to college and kind of lost touch with the hobby. I'm sure that's a very familiar story for a lot of people. But my dad always stuck with it and always kept me sort of tuned in and abreast of what's happening. And really, what happened was a couple of years ago, I was on Wall Street. I was working in finance, and I'd also had a sports entrepreneurial experience where I co-founded and eventually sold a minor league football league. And I kind of realized that I just really enjoyed being more of an entrepreneur, more of an operator than I did being sort of a financial analyst. And he said, hey, look, if you're looking for for a new gig, you should check out the world of sports collectibles. There's something really interesting happening. And this was a couple of years ago when, things were interesting, but not nearly at the pace that things are interesting now, of course. And, just through networking and researching, I wound up actually coming across Collectable. Collectable hasn't always been a fractional ownership platform. Actually, Collectable was almost Card Ladder pre-Card Ladder. It was a free data platform that had sales histories and price histories dating back to 1973 for not just cards, for memorabilia as well, right? And they the prior management team pivoted the business from pure data over to fractional, and that's really where I stepped in. So as a long answer to the question, yeah, I've been a collector and sort of hobbyist for a long time, and ebbed and flowed, of course, but through my family connection, my father, I really, I always had a love for the hobby, and obviously it's been really fun to kind of marry my career and my passion.
So let's ask a couple of follow-up questions. To that number one, what are some of the coolest pieces you got to see as a kid that were in your father's collection, and then who is in your PC now?
Well, so as my dad will tell you, I mean, he wasn't a high volume collector. He was more of a high quality, low volume collector, right? So he would always collect the best that he could afford. And but again, he didn't have unlimited resources. He was a father of three kids. We were growing up in New York City, which is obviously a very expensive place to live. So he loved the action. He loved the action. So he would buy stuff, hold on to it for a year or two, and then sell it. He had some incredible pieces. I mean, the coolest sort of piece that kind of brought all this full circle for me is if you look at the Collectable platform, there is an absolutely iconic Wilt Chamberlain full uniform from 1959, 1960.
Wow.
And my dad at one point actually owned that piece. I'll never forget. I actually saw that piece in my parents' apartment on my dad's bed. Again, it didn't have nearly the same type of monetary value that it has now, but I remember seeing that. And so when Collectible had the opportunity to consign that and fractionalize it, for me, that was such a cool moment because I remember seeing it when I was young, and now we have it on the platform, and it was a really cool sort of full circle moment for me.
That's awesome, and it's actually funny that your dad has a similar story to Bunk. Bunk's a father of three kids. Unfortunately, Bunk's PC includes Adam Dunn and not Will Chamberlain, but that's besides the point.
You don't want my full uniform of the donkey?
Well,
um,
We'll
we
talk
can
after the
definitely
show, man.
fractionalize it. Yeah, exactly.
30 cents a share.
um,
I love it.
and so who's in your PC, and what are some of your favorite pieces?
Yeah, it's funny. The old adage, when you're building a business, you kind of want to build, a product that you would love to use, right? So, I think that's very true with Collectible. I mean, I like PCing some of the best of the best. Obviously, I can't afford to drop millions of dollars in every piece, of course, right? So when you look at my PC, I almost exclusively collect fractionally now. Right, so
Okay.
I've got a 52 tops mantle and an 8. I've got shares of the Will Chamberlain full uniform. I've got the shares of the Tiger Wood putter. I mean, I think it's just so cool. The thing that we really uncovered was at the high end of the industry. Not only have there been kind of better financial returns, which is obviously part of this, right? The kind of financial returns side of it. But I just always gravitated towards things that for some reason connected with me emotionally. And those things were just the iconic moments, the iconic pieces, the iconic athletes. One thing that I actually have started to collect physically recently, which is something I've never really done before, has been tickets. Tickets.
Okay.
I'd never really gone to the ticket market before. Obviously, they've been exploding in popularity as of late, and I've seen myself spending a lot more time on eBay looking at these tickets that aren't always the most expensive, but for some reason resonate with me. One that I purchased recently was the first Michigan victory under Bo Schembechler, who is the legendary sort of football coach at the University of Michigan. His first win against Ohio State. It was 1969. It was one of the most iconic college football upsets of all time. Another one that I purchased was Game 6 of the 1996 World Series for the New York Yankees, which was Jeter and Rivera and Posada and Bernie's first championship together. So I'm finding these things that have personal connections. I grew up in New York. I went to the University of Michigan. That I just find that kind of sense of history with the tickets to be really cool.
And
Speaking of tickets, I just saw that you guys have a Mickey Mantle debut ticket
We do.
stub coming up soon, don't you?
We do, yeah, we do. Yeah, I mean the market for tickets has been white hot, and I think people are now obviously given where cards have gone at the high end, where you're seeing multiple cards sell for 7+ figures. People are looking for assets that could be quote unquote catch up trades, if you will, right? So things that have that same degree, if not more scarcity that actually, kind of put you in the moment. And, so yeah, the tickets, certainly fit that bill. Obviously, this Mantle ticket's really cool. It's Mantle's debut. We're working on a couple other really cool tickets. We recently consigned two of Tiger Woods tickets from his, first PGA championship, his first, pro round, right? So there's lots of cool ticket opportunities popping up. Obviously, on the topic of Chamberlain, one of the hottest tickets of the market right now is the ticket to his 100-point game, right? So that's one of the holy grail tickets out there. But again, it's just been a fun market to really dive into, and there's stuff that is very PCable, at the lower end of the range too, which has a lot of meaning.
So
Why don't and why don't go ahead,
yeah,
sorry.
I was gonna say let's back up, and for those that are listening that don't know what Collectable is, can you give us the overview of what Collectable is, what Collectable does, and how it ties into the hobby? Because we are a sports card podcast, we like to try to stay true to that. So why don't you give us the overview on that?
Yeah. I mean, look, yeah, it's a lot of what we've already been discussing, right? It's a lot of, we want to create a mechanism and a company that allowed collectors and investors of all income brackets all over the country and soon all across the world the ability to own the best of the best. Right? I think the data kind of speaks for itself. Oftentimes, the best of the best is what tends to do the best over long periods of time. Obviously, the caveat to that is that the best of the best up until recently was only accessible to very wealthy collectors who could afford to drop 6, 7 figures on uncertain pieces, right? So we want to create a company that, hey, look, we have access to the best of the best, and now let's, give that access back to any collector who wants to participate, right? So a prime example, I guess, is that Will Chamberlain jersey that we started off the podcast with, or I'll give a card example since it's more of a card podcast, right? So a Mickey Mantle 1952 high grade on an 8, right? That's selling for millions, right? 1 to 3 million, give or take it at this point in time. Again, if that card were to sell at an auction, well, one collector would have to pay $2 million for it, right? On Collectable, we could have 500 or 1,000 individual shareholders, and the cost to buy in is the cost of one share, which we limit to around $10, right? So you can be an owner of a 1952 Mickey Mantle in a high grade for as little as $10, right? That's really what we've created.
So
And so it's been a really fun sort of innovation to the hobby, and what I think it really will allow us to do is expand the hobby and the reach of the hobby to a lot more collectors who otherwise would be priced out of it.
So let's take this, I guess, from the top. You go and buy the piece, and then you say, okay, we're going to split this into X amount of shares. It's going to be X dollars per share, and then you put it up on the Collectable platform. How do you determine who gets access to that? Because obviously, a 52 Mantle, you're going to easily sell it out. So how do you determine who gets that access? Is it first come, first serve? Is there a lottery? How does that work?
Yeah, it's really first come first serve, right? So we set a date and a time essentially for when that offering will go live on the platform, and whoever shows up first gets it.
And am I limited to the amount of shares I can buy?
So what we typically do is we limit it for periods of time, and then after the first hour, you can buy as much of it as you want, right? So within the first 15 minutes, you can only buy a relatively small amount. Again, that is just to make sure that anyone who's really gung ho about it, who sets their clocks to a certain time and logs out, we want to make sure that they have access to it. That sort of limit expands after the first 15 minutes. So for the next 45 minutes, it's a little bit of a higher limit, and then after that first hour, you can buy sort of as much as as is left in the initial offering.
And then how does the back end of this work in that? So we'll continue with the 52 Mantle example. Let's say, you know, you guys acquired it for $1 million and we get, a year down the road, and, are you actively looking for people to make offers above that $1 million, or, do people just come to you and say, I know that you have this, I'll give you 2 million for it, and then you take that to the shareholders?
Yeah, I mean, it's generally the latter, right? So we typically don't solicit offers. Again, if there's something that we think is just deeply undervalued, and for whatever reason our market is just not recognizing that, then we might see what is out there to kind of help generate some shareholder value for people. But generally, what it is people are pretty aware of what Collectable has in the platform. We've got over 60,000 people who are using the platform currently. That number is growing pretty quickly every day, every week, right? And also we have relationships with all the major auction houses and dealers, and so people know what Collectable has and what's on the platform. And it's unlike an auction, right? An auction house where there's kind of a schedule, right? So things are only available for a certain period of time. On Collectable, it's available 24/7, right? And our market is only really available 9:30 to 4 o'clock, but everything is available to be to put buyout offers in and kind of see what we have at any point in time. So Yeah, we do get a lot of offers. I think we've accepted, or the shareholders, I should say, have accepted, I believe, 14 buyouts of assets in just our first year. I believe the average return has been well over 40, 50 percent average within the first year on that. There's been a lot of buyout offers that have been declined. I think there have been more that have been declined that have actually been accepted, which to me shows that you have a huge amount of confidence in the market overall, in these assets that we're putting up on the platform, and in Collectable, which is terrific. And yeah, it's been just a really fun innovation for the hobby that I really believe is kind of still very early on, and what we'll be able to do over time.
And where's Collectible getting the majority of their assets from? Is it private consignment, auction? Are you buying collections?
Yeah, so we actually don't typically buy collections or assets, right? Where it's almost all just through our relationships, through consignments, through exclusive relationships with big collections. We've done a couple big deals. One we just announced recently with a soccer collection over in Barcelona, which some people consider to be the best in the world. So we'll have a lot of soccer stuff on the platform in the lead up to the World Cup. We did a deal with a company called Sports Immortals down in Boca Raton, which is just an iconic collection. And then, look, I'll say this, I think success kind of begets success. When people see that you've got great items on the platform and you can fund it and get good returns for people, then that definitely piques people's curiosities, and they tend to bring us items that they think would be, sort of perfect for fractionalization. The other thing that Collectable can do, which is very different from a lot of the other platforms, from a lot of the other auction houses, which definitely allows us to get great supply, is we pioneer the concept called retained equity. So essentially what that means is if you have, an amazing piece and, you want to retain some ownership of it, but you also want to take some chips off the table, you could come to Collectable and do a partial sale, right? So we'll take, so the physical possession of the card, but you'll still have an economic interest in it, right? So it's a way for people to, perhaps you've been in the hobby for a long time and prices have gone up and you want to take some money off the table, but you still believe in it. You still think there's upside to it, and you don't want to kind of sell 100% of the card. You can do that through Collectable, and that's been a big sort of unlock for the market and for us.
Where does the physical possession lay with this? Do you guys, so let's say there's somebody that can sign something to you, you sell out the shares, do you then take possession of the item? Or if somebody's selling 50% of their card, do you take possession of the item, or do they retain possession?
Yeah, no, we always have them in our vaults. We've got numerous vaults all across the country. Some operated by Collectable, some third party vaults. And so any item on the platform is vaulted, is insured by Collectable.
Okay, awesome. So what was I going to say? Intraday stuff, not necessarily intraday, but let's say I buy 100 shares at $10 of the Mantle card, and I don't want to hold it anymore. Can I then sell those shares on the open market? Number one, and number two, if so, how does the valuation get determined of my original $10 shares?
Yeah, no, there's also a secondary market component to Collectibles. So think of it, I think that the easiest way to think about it is we've actually created a little mini stock market for high-end sports collectibles. And so, very true to stock market form, 9:30 a.m. to 4 p.m. Eastern, same as the New York Stock Exchange. You can go on the Collectible platform and buy, sell, trade interest in some of the most iconic pieces in history. So you can trade, Jordan and Gretzky and Mantle and Ruth and the icons of the icons in the same way, essentially, as you can trade Apple, Amazon, Netflix, and Google. So really cool there. It's a full peer-to-peer market, right? So, you can go and buy something at whatever share price you determine to be a good buy, and then you can go and sell it at whatever price you determine that you think is a good sell. Now,
So
the sort of caveat to that, of course, is that there has to be someone willing to take the other side of the trade. Right?
Yeah.
So you can't buy it for 10, list it for 1,000, and hope immediately it'll get executed. Someone has to be able to willing to buy it at that price, of course.
Oh, okay. So if I buy my shares at $10 and then I list my shares at $15 a share, as long as somebody's willing to take my shares at $15 a share, then I can then sell. So two questions on that. Number one, let's say I have 1,000 shares, or let's say I have 100 shares. Somebody only wants to buy 50 at 15. Can I dump half and then I still have half? Yes. And then are you guys taking any kind of fees on that?
Yeah, so yeah, I think that very similar to how the stock market would work, right? Or, in the sense where if you have 100 shares of a stock, for instance, and you go to offer 100 shares out to the market, but only it's possible to get sort of partial execution or a partial
Yep.
fill, right? So you don't always have to get fully executed. Of course, if there's someone who wants to take the other side of the trade and take all your 100 shares, then yeah, it'll be a done deal. But there definitely oftentimes where offers are put out to the market where someone will come in, they'll take 50 shares, someone else will come in, take 25 shares, and so they'll kind of chip away at the amount that you're trying to sell over time.
And I could pretty much leave it in the similar like buy it now on eBay. I can just say, okay, I'm offering X amount of shares at this price, and then just leave it till it gets filled. Is that accurate?
Yeah, correct. Yep. You can leave it out there for the market to see. You can remove it and sort of replace it in once you see a bid. So you've got a lot of flexibility. But again, it's a fully peer-to-peer market. We tried to create this as close to the stock market as possible. I think that is something that a lot of people have experience doing and trading, right? So it'll look really similar to kind of the true stock market hours, and feel. But again, instead of trading, Facebook, Amazon, Netflix, and Google, now you're trading Jordan, Mantle, and Gretzky, and Ruth, and sort of all the sports icons.
Awesome.
So we know the last 2 years have been absolutely crazy, right? And how the hobby has shifted. I've been through it since I've never left the hobby. I've been in, so I've seen it stale, doing nothing, kind of how you spoke about earlier. I've seen the last 2 years. We'd be naive to think that it's not going to change again, right? So what does Collectable maybe have coming down the pike in terms of innovation or updates or other aspects of what you guys want to roll out?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, the pace of innovation in the hobby over the last 18 months, I always say this, the pace of innovation over the last 18 months has probably superseded the pace of innovation over the last 18 years. I mean, more companies,
Easily.
more change, has happened, in a really short amount of time. I'm not surprised that happened, by the way. I mean, my whole thesis for kind of leaving the world of finance and Wall Street to come to this market was I thought this was a market that had a lot of low-hanging fruit and was, a really special place that, almost in spite of the sort of structural and the regulatory challenges and all the bad actors and all this stuff that in spite of that it was a multi-billion-dollar industry where people were really passionate about it, right? So I'm not surprised that there's been a lot of change and innovation. I thought it was really ripe for it. The pace of which I'm surprised. I thought this would happen over the course of 5 years, not say a year to a year and a half. I think, yeah, I mean, look, we at Collectable have a pretty extensive roadmap for what we plan on rolling out for people. I think you can expect to see a lot, sort of a lot of what we've already done, but in sort of better, more refined formats. We're still a very young company. We only launched to the public about a year ago. We've accomplished a lot in that first year, but again, we're just getting started. For the industry at large, yeah, I mean, I think over the next couple of years, you're going to see a lot happen. But I think first and foremost, you're going to see this industry become really mainstream, really cool, in a way that probably it hasn't been in a very long time, if ever. I mean, obviously, what's happened over the last 18 months, you have massive companies with massive, sort of reach and capital who come into this hobby and given it the stamp of approval. Companies like Blackstone and Fanatics and Amazon and the list goes on and on. Netflix is doing a series on the hobby. Companies like Collectable are fractionalizing stuff and allowing the masses to participate, both domestically today and hopefully international soon. I mean, there's just a lot happening. People are looking at this as an alternative asset, right? So not only is it, sort of a collectible and sort of a passion-led, collectible hobby, but now it's an alternative asset that people, big money managers are coming in and gobbling up top supply and in hopes of financial returns. Right? So there's just a lot going on, and it's really exciting. And I would say this pace of change is one of the big reasons why we wanted to kind of start this conference in January, right? With IMG and Endeavor, is to really educate people and to really kind of bring the hobby together, and just kind of dive deep into some of the biggest, meatiest topics that are facing the hobby. The hobby is an amazing place, an amazing community, and we want to make sure that we kind of all go through this change in some degree of sort of community aspect here, right? And so we're really excited about this event coming up.
Yeah, we're gonna
I'm sure we'll talk more about that.
Yeah, don't jump ahead. We got one other question, one other big question that I want to address before we get into that. First and foremost, thank you for confirming what I said pretty much on episode 2, which Bunk didn't want to listen to me. I made the statement that this hobby is going to become a business, and we've seen it over the last 9 months, time and time again, the big money coming in. So I have 2 questions before we get into the event in Vegas. I know we're running a little long here, but number one, Amazon getting involved with Dibs. How do you guys feel about that? Obviously, Dibs is one of your direct competitors, and Amazon's a massive, massive player in any space. So, how do you guys feel about that whole situation?
Yeah, I mean, look, I'll say this. We really don't, kind of think of Dibs as competition to Collectible. I think we're doing, sort of a lot very differently. Obviously, Dibs, does do fractional ownership so for that reason, it's logical to kind of group us together. Look, I mean, our view is that this is still such a small market compared to what I think the market will become, right? And we've been pretty consistent with this. You can look across what Collectible has done, both sort of at this conference in January, but our entire kind of cadence as a business and the way we've interacted with a lot of companies in this category, we're taking a purposefully collaborative approach. We really want to expand the reach and the size of the industry, both domestically and internationally. We want to tell the story of the hobby. We'd rather sort of see kind of a general expansion of the category, because obviously if the category expands, and I think there's so much room for it to expand, we're comfortable and confident that Collectible will have a very meaningful slice of that pie, and obviously all of us, we'll do quite well together as a hobby, right? So, when I see headlines like Amazon getting into the hobby, it makes me excited. It makes me excited. It's just another validator of what I think we're seeing. Another validator of, I think the potential to reach massive, massive audiences and to educate people and get them excited about the hobby. So again, I'm thrilled for Dibs. I don't know what it's going to look like yet. We haven't really seen details. We don't know the size of the investment. We just saw a headline. But either way, I think it's a great headline for the hobby that just continues to reinforce that, I think there's a lot of great things to come.
Okay, one final question, then we'll talk about Vegas. Any plans to do fractional ownership on NFTs, Bored Ape, CryptoPunks? Obviously these are along the same price points as some of the high end stuff, and there are obviously people that want to be in on this action that don't have the opportunity. So is that something that's in the pipeline?
Yes, yeah, you will see fractionalized NFTs from Collectible. We're actually working on a couple big things in this category. Obviously the easy thing for us to do is to go out there and consign or acquire existing NFT projects and kind of offer them like any other asset in the platform. You'll probably see us do something like that, but we're also in conversations to do meaningful partnerships in this category, which I think could be interesting. So I'm sure at some point in 2022 you'll definitely see Collectible and NFTs in the same breath.
Is this breaking news? I mean, has this been announced yet from Collectible that you guys are going to be in the NFT market?
News, and there's no. No, is it break? No, I wouldn't say it's breaking news, but yeah, we've already we're in the process of getting a couple NFTs qualified by the SEC. So
Nice.
Again, it'll be Top Shot moments and and things that you would expect to see. But we're also evaluating some other projects and potential partnerships as well. And look, I think it's again on the vein of kind of expanding the reach of collectibles and the popularity and, kind of making them more mainstream and popular, you cannot argue that NFTs have certainly brought a lot of exposure to just the collectible category, whether physical or digital. I think, obviously the thesis is going to, still has to play out how the physical and the digital worlds, sort of interact together. Will they be two separate markets? Will there be a merger of the two? That'll be really interesting to track. But yeah, I mean, obviously we're seeing just amazing numbers across the board for the NFT space. And that is something that it seems like our community wants.
Yeah, absolutely. So with that being said, we'll get to the main reason why you're here today. We've seen the Mint Collective everywhere. Every single social media channel has reposted all the guests and all the things. So for those that don't know what the Mint Collective is, give us a rundown on what it's all about.
Yeah, this is going to be a really fun event for the hobby. Again, it was a brainchild that was created by Collectible as a joint venture with IMG and Endeavor. IMG and Endeavor is, a global powerhouse within, sort of sports and talent and media. another one of those examples, another one of those big companies that have really, sort of seen what's happening in the hobby and sort of reached out to kind of help, support it, right? And to support its growth. They've been investing, sort of across the space as well. So again, it'll be a 3-day event in Las Vegas, January 28th through the 30th. It'll have a lot of what you'd expect from a traditional show, right? It'll have a marketplace format with lots of vendors and tables, and it'll look probably pretty similar to a card show on Saturday. But the rest of the event is going to be different. There's going to be a real focal point on thought leadership, a real focal point on kind of debating and talking about some of the meatiest topics within the hobby. Right, there's a list of different seminars essentially. Right, these panelists who come on, some of the biggest leaders in the industry.
I was going to say, who are the headliners that'll be there?
Yeah, of hobby people, right? So, we'll have Josh, obviously, from Fanatics, Luber. You'll have Ken Golden there. You'll have a lot of, the leaders from PSA, SGC, Beckett. You'll have, leaders from fractional companies like Collectable. The list goes on and on and on. If you go to the website, it's going to be incredibly well represented, well attended. And then we'll also have people who are somewhat outside of the traditional hobby, who are leaders in sports or leaders in business, right? Who can kind of give you a little bit more of a macro view in terms of how the hobby is emerging. They're not just in sort of its existing community, right? So we'll have Dana White, for instance, who's the founder of UFC, right? He's one of the most influential sort of sports business leaders in the world right now. He'll be there. Guys like Ravel, right? Who's obviously a big collector with a big reach and a big audience. He'll be there as well.
Which is interesting, considering Dana just destroyed him on social media.
There's a little bit of a sub drama going on. Exactly. So that's an interesting little subplot to the weekend, right? Is the Ravel and White drama, and is that going to take center stage at the Mini Collective? I don't know.
I believe Dana called him dipshit, so that'll be interesting as far as all that goes. So 2 other questions about this. Are there still tickets available? If so, what are the breakdowns as far as, what kind of tickets I can get? And then if I can attend in person, is any of this content going to be available online?
Yeah, so that's all actually on the website directly. But yes, there are tickets still available, not many. So we definitely think if you're interested, you should act fast in those. There are still tickets available. There are different price points and tiers of the tickets, right? So there's sort of the signature badge, which gives you access to the most, and sort of access to all the panelist speakers. There's tickets that just get you in the door to the vendors, the trade shows. So yeah, and there's lots of different options at different price points. I think either any of the price points will deliver a pretty cool, unique experience. Again, it should be a really fun, sort of uplifting event for the industry. It should be really informative and educational. And I think it's a really great opportunity to just continue to build a community around the hobby. Obviously, what we've seen is that community really is everything, right? The subject matter is terrific. Everyone loves cards, but ultimately you keep coming back for more because of the people you meet and the community build. And it's really just a great opportunity to meet some incredible people.
Yeah, I don't see how you don't learn a ton here, because more than any other time that I can remember, people are very opinionated now. That exists in the hobby. There are people way on one side, way on the other side. I love, if you haven't checked it out already, mintcollective.com. You can see all the panel discussions and who the guests are going to be. I think it'd be fascinating to hear one take, another take, agreement, full-blown disagreement. I think that is the highest yield of information you can get is the discussions that are going to be had by people with differing opinions here.
So
yeah, and that's what we tried to create, right? Again, we purposely created panels that are real thought leaders and real business leaders, but people who don't necessarily agree on these topics, right? We really want to facilitate, just an honest peer-to-peer conversation. It's easy to kind of sprout off comments on social media, right? But when you're in front of your peers, when everything's on the record, I think it'll be really, really interesting just to kind of debate again in a very sort of holistic way, right? What is the future of this industry? What can people expect? How do people get involved? How can we evolve as a hobby in ways that are beneficial, that don't kind of forget the sort of legacy in the past and the foundation of the hobby, but how can we continue to evolve into what this hobby is going to become, right? I think there's no doubt that it is evolving, right? But how we evolve and why we evolve and who is involved, and I think those are really important topics that I think this is a perfect forum to really delve deep into.
Yeah, I want to just backtrack just for a sec. You mentioned it's going to be on the record, so is it going to be recorded and available after? I know, for some can't get to Vegas, or a lot can't get to Vegas. So are people going to have the opportunity to watch this afterwards?
Yeah, I mean, look, I'm sure snippets of the conversations will be recorded and made available over social media. To my knowledge, and I could be wrong about this, so don't quote me. To my knowledge, I don't believe the sort of full dialogues will be made available, but I do believe snippets and sound bites of the panelists will be, sort of available on social media and other channels as well.
Okay, awesome. We'll close with one opportunity for those that haven't checked out Collectable. Do you have any promo codes or discounts you can give our audience to get them to go sign up and check out the platform?
We are going to be making a promo card, especially for you guys here, right? Your audience. So it'll be the promo code will be SC Advantage. And so again, SC Advantage. If you go to Collectable, sign up using that promo code, you'll be entitled to $10 free of a Michael Jordan 1986 Fleer SGC 10.
Awesome.
So a pretty iconic card. Obviously, you can buy more of shares if you want to, but you'll get $10 free of that by signing up on Collectable with the promo code SC Advantage.
Fantastic. Really cool. Bunk, any other questions?
No, I'm good.
And
talking to you, Ezra.
Ezra, any other final things you want to throw out there for the audience?
No, again, I think the main points on the event in January, right? Again, this is really not going to be an event where Collectable, it's all about Collectable, right? We really want to create a very collaborative event that again breeds community and education, just a fun event for the hobby. Obviously, it's in Vegas. It's during the NFL Conference Championships. It should be a fun event. It should be a star-studded event within the hobby and with the hobby at large. And again, I think it's it'll be a really great event for people to attend and join. We hope to see as many of you guys there as possible.
Yeah, no matter what your position is in the hobby, it helps everyone grow. Period.
Yeah, and at the very least, I think it's going to be the first public appearance from Luber since the whole Fanatics, and I'm sure people are going to want to pin him down to get as much information as they possibly can, as far as the future and what's going to happen with Topps and Panini. So I'm sure that'll be a topic of conversation throughout the weekend.
Yep. I mean, look, he's a very thoughtful guy, Josh, and I think he'll tell us as much as he can tell us. There are some things that he's still not able to say. I mean, I know that for a fact, but he is someone who is very thoughtful and will be as transparent as he possibly can. And you're right. I mean, I think this will be, he's going to be closing out the entire weekend. We created a panel especially for him to kind of talk about the future of the industry, and I'm sure all eyeballs and all ears will be on what Josh has to say.
Well, in the event you want to record that, I'd throw my $15 at it to watch it on YouTube or whatever, just for the sake of learning that information. But all right, awesome. We're gonna wrap up. We went a few minutes over, so we appreciate you guys. We appreciate you hanging out.
Yeah, thanks for having me. And again, we hope to see you guys in Vegas. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, hopefully we're
big. Coming on.
Hopefully we're big enough next year. You'll invite us to speak.
Exactly. Got it, guys.
Take care. Alrighty, and we are back. Once again, want to thank Ezra Levine, CEO of the Collectable app, for joining us today. Fantastic interview, lots of very helpful information. And once again, for all the Sports Card Advantage listeners, you can sign up on Collectable app. Use the code SC Advantage to get $10 or one share of the 1986 Fleer Michael Jordan. Full disclosure, we make $0 on this. We have no ad affiliation or any kind of anything with this. So this is all for you guys. I know that they have this promotion, I think, for anybody that's already on the app. What is it, early whatever?
Yeah, they do early access to certain things. I'm not sure their criteria, but I know on my app it's already there, available for purchase.
Yeah.
Before it goes, I guess, public live.
Do you get the free $10, or is that something for us?
I didn't try that. What do you mean the free $10?
Well, I'm just making sure that we're actually getting
Oh
something.
yeah,
and they're
no,
not.
you're getting something because right
Okay.
now I'd have to pay for it right now.
Okay.
Yeah.
So at least we're getting something.
Yeah, you're getting something there.
All
And
right.
then if you're looking to download it, it's Collectable with an A. Collectable.
Thank you for the spelling help on that one. So yeah, you can get $10. As I said, once again, we are not making a penny off of this. We have zero financial interest in Collectable whatsoever. But for full disclosure, both of us do participate, and both of us do have holdings for some fractional stuff with Collectable. We both find it decent app. So if you're interested, go get your $10. And with that being said, we'll get into this week's investments and this edition of Bunk's off-season guide to baseball. What do you got for us today, buddy?
Well, it's slim pickings this time of year. It's pretty poor.
Well, I mean, with that said, we've been talking about the market being soft, and the closer we get to Christmas, the softer the market is going to get. People are selling stuff off to pay bills, to buy gifts, to do whatever else they need to do right now. So, it's not really surprising. The true test of this is where we are in a month from now. If this doesn't start to bounce back in mid-January, then we need to have another conversation as far as where the market could potentially go.
Yeah, we'll see. Still no eBay third quarter data, huh?
I haven't seen any announced yet.
That's what I really want to know. See where we're headed. But anyway, yeah. So if you're not looking at your top prospects, I decided to go with a New York Yankee who maybe or may not be in his prime if he can stay healthy. But we're gonna look at Aaron Judge.
All right.
First Bowman cards today. So if you're pulling it up, sir, it's 2013 Bowman Draft Chrome.
All right, I got it. Chrome
PSA 9 and PSA 10s.
Chrome draft picks.
Yes, sir.
All right, we got it.
So the PSA 9 most recently sold for $26. It's got a pop of just over 1,000. As per every baseball card, its high was right around last March, April, and that was as high as $100. I don't think you're going to see $100 again on this card per se, but the Yankees actually figure it out and do something with their offseason, and they're playing winning baseball again. I think PSA 9 and the PSA 10 of this card is easily 2 to 3 times where it sits right now. The 10 also has a pop of only just over 1,000. Last sale was $143, and it had a previous high of $380.
And this is his first card in a Yankee uniform?
Yeah.
All right.
Yep.
I mean, $26 with a pop of 1,000 at a PSA 9, you can't go wrong, and you could potentially accumulate some volume, so if you can get 2 to 3x on that.
That's exactly what I would do. I'd look for a lot of 4, 5, 6 of them, get them for a little lower than, on average than what they're currently going for, and I'll hold them for a few months.
Yeah.
Obviously, not a card you're buying raw to grade right now, unless it's going to one of the hack companies, but
is that what we're referring to them as now, the hack companies?
Listen, if you bring it up, we'll dive deeper into it. But.
No, we've beaten that horse is pretty dead. We're gonna give it a little break to come back. But from what I'm seeing right now, from a pure technical standpoint on the chart, here your PSA 10, pretty solid bet as far as over the last 6 months, it's hit 108, 117. 125, 123. You're definitely you're building a slowly moving up bottom to this. So I definitely think that once baseball's around the corner, another couple months, and this thing should definitely see a nice little pop.
Yeah, and we'll see what happens. The Yankees may eventually sign him long term, and he's going to be 30 in April.
Yeah.
So we should be right in the middle of kicking ass.
Okay. Cool. Yeah, I mean, definitely some solid numbers here as far as something to take a look at, and once again, as far as what we always try to do is find opportunities that have minimal downside risk with good upward potential, and this $26, you really can't go much lower than that, and even though at $140 on the last sale. You haven't been below like 125 in the last 3 or 4 months, even with baseball being over and going into the holiday season. So it looks to have some pretty solid support for this.
Now go back to buying your Wanders.
Yes. Yeah. Well, I'm sure we'll talk about Wander sometime in the next few months and start to look at some cards, of him before the when did the first 22 products get released where he'll be an official
Geez,
rookie?
they're already talking about Bowman. What's getting pushed back? Is it drafted? I know Bowman's best may get pushed back. That's supposed to be the end of December. And there's something else I think might get pushed back into 2022 as it is. So we still got 21 releases that aren't going to be done.
All right, so then Wander will be on hold. Hopefully, there'll be some kind of 22 product that comes out before the season starts.
Yeah, flagship top series 1 will be out before the season starts with Wander's face on every pack. I'm sure.
With the amount of money Tampa Bay gave him, and the things that he did at his age, obviously it's warranted. So.
Yep, get a piece of Wander.
Yep. Well, I'm sure we'll do a Wander segment at some point, and as I said, we'll run through some cards to look at for products that have already come out, and then looking at a stern warning about buying his 22 products right when they come out, and waiting for them to dip a little bit.
It won't matter. It has a rookie card logo on it, so it's all over. $1 billion each.
Well, talk to those that bought the QB prospects of this class for football.
Well, if you chose Mac Jones, you might be doing all right.
Yeah, that's true. The thing that bothers me about that whole situation is that I still don't think the flagship football products still aren't out. Prism and Select and National Treasures. I mean, those products still hadn't even hit yet. So I mean, Prism supposedly is coming out in the next couple of weeks. I think supposedly like the end of the month, maybe December 29th seems to ring a bell. But we'll see if it actually drops. If it does, I mean, Mac Jones is definitely the top of that class, and I'm gonna be real curious to see what the Fields, Zach Wilson, Trey Lance stuff goes for, considering those guys did not have great seasons.
I think you're going to be surprised that they do pretty darn well.
Well, I mean, some of their stuff that started out really high has taken a beating. I mean, I saw.
Yeah, but it's new shiny stuff.
Yeah, I guess I hate that. Like, I hate.
There's not enough out, so if you bought a couple pieces, if everything's stale now, you get some new look stuff coming out. Forget it.
Yeah, I hate the just blind FOMO that people have, and just the pure stupidity of it. It's like when his Donruss stuff came out, and when Fields and Wilson and whatever their Donruss stuff came out, and their cards, some of their cards downtowns were like $1,500, $2,000. Now they're both selling for less than $300, same price as like Jamar Chase and Jalen Waddle. I mean, they're all closing for around that like $250 mark. So we'll see. All right, and I'm going to talk about one quick basketball investment before we follow up on a topic from last week. I am, absolutely loving Anthony Edwards right now. At this point, he definitely has some affordable stuff in PSA 9s. If you look at his Optic Hollow PSA 9, it is a Pop 42, which you can pick up for last sale was $230. And then his Prism Silver Pop 263 last sale was $265. You definitely may be able to get some deals on these over the next couple of weeks through the holidays. You can pick them up for anywhere close to this $200 mark. Edwards is a guy that was the number one pick in the draft. He's 20 years old. He has gotten better than he was last year. He just has a tremendous future. And if the Timberwolves can actually put some talent around him, win some games, make the playoffs, he definitely should be considered a superstar in this league. Especially with LeBron and some of the older generation on their way out the door. There's going to be an opportunity for the next few superstars to take the stage. And he should be in that conversation. So his stuff, should continue to rise. So it would definitely be a long-term hold, in my opinion, of somebody that you buy and you put in a drawer and you hold for a bit. He has that kind of ability, and the question will just become whether or not he can surpass LaMelo as far as popularity or talent wise. He's definitely on the same level. And with that being said, we are going to follow up on something from last week. We said that we were going to put our money where our mouth is, and we've been talking about the slab wars and cracking slabs and resubmitting stuff. So we put our money where our mouth was. We kept our eyes open looking for HGA 9.5s, BGS 9.5s, and SGC 10s. I was actually at a show this past weekend in Raleigh. There was a bunch of stuff there, but unfortunately couldn't get any of it for the right price. But we did scoop a Matt Stafford 2009 Topps Chrome Refractor in an HGA 9.5. We got it for $479. The PSA 10 last sale was $1,600. There was also a BGS 9.5 that sold for $1,800 back in November. And these are going raw for roughly $150 to $200. With this card, Bunk, you want to run down the subgrades and where we're at?
Yeah, it's got 9.5 corners and edges. It's got a 10 centering, and it's got a 9 surface. So the only concern there is there's something on the surface that's highly recognizable to the naked eye. Obviously, with the pics we were provided, I cannot see that. And the one thing of all the 4 grades that we physically have control over, potentially, depending on what's wrong with the surface, is the surface. Because I can potentially wipe it, clean it, if there's stuff on it, fingerprints, whatever. But if there's factory, like a big crater in it, or factory dimple, or just something on the surface, scratches that doesn't come through on the pick, it may not slip through the legs of PSA as a 10.
Yeah, absolutely. And unfortunately, there was one pick in the eBay listing, and it was an awful picture. We tried to send the guy an email. He never responded, so we rolled the dice. We didn't see it until there was a couple hours left in the auction, so the guy didn't have time to respond. He still hasn't even responded. But we're gonna roll the dice. We'll get the card, and we'll see. But with the PSA 10s having sold for $1,600 and $1,700 over the last couple weeks on this, the Rams massive win last night. Rams definitely a playoff team and potential Super Bowl candidate. The timing on this could be good for us to really flip this and make a profit. Even if we are able to get the previous 2 sales of $1,600 or $1,700, that still puts us in a position to make about $750 on this card.
Yeah, and we get it in, and it looks like dog shit. Then, like to your point, Rams are rolling. They're going to the playoffs, and we have a card that'll probably get a bump in value anyway, and we can roll it into the next one.
Yeah, we can take better pictures of it, get it listed, get it up, and more than likely that we'll make our money back, and plus hopefully the 12% eBay fees and break even. So.
Yeah, I mean, and this is one of those auctions that started with a high bid. They historically don't do very well unless it's the highest of the high end. I see those kind of listings end all the time with one bid, and and then someone just jumps in at the end. I'm not sure the psychology behind it, but even if it's a good price, people won't hop on it unless it says it started at 99 cents. So crappy pick, one bid. What we thought was a good price, if we could snake it for the one bid, and we'll see what happens.
Yeah, I mean those are the types of opportunities. You keep your eyes open, you put stuff on your watch list, and the more that we look, the more I feel comfortable trying to buy and flip HGA or BGS stuff. We've looked at, we've tried to look at some SGC 10s. We talked about it ad nauseum here as far as just noticing things that are that are condition issues. Even though they're a quote unquote 10. I sent Bunk a couple things earlier today, and it's like, yeah, there's a white corner, or there's edges that are screwed up, and you look at the cases, and there's space in between the card and the case, and there's definitely room for it to knock around, which will damage edges and damage corners. So for the time,
so we don't know if they're getting damaged because the case stinks, or are they just a little more lenient. But it's clear as day, though, because the cards you sent me, you could see there's white all over the back of the edges and corners.
Yeah, we continue to build a beef with SGC, also simply because unfortunately we submitted a card to them that came back in worse condition than we submitted it. We've tried to reach out to them via customer service and have yet to receive a response. We literally have video of the card after we received it, right before it got put in the package to get mailed. So we know how it went out. And, so there's literally documentation of it. And, it's, if you have customer service, you should be responding to it. At least tell us like, hey, there's nothing we can do about it. But I mean, isn't it supposed to be that they take pictures of everything when it gets submitted?
I don't know. They're too busy wrapping tuxedos on it.
Well, don't necessarily need to continue to bash it, but hopefully we'll receive a response at some point. I'm gonna have to start publicly shaming them on social media and seeing if I can get somebody to answer me. But yeah, definitely disappointing in the whole situation. But anyway, we'll keep you posted. Stafford should arrive here in the next few days. We'll let steady hands Dr. Bunk go to work with some of the pliers and surgically remove it from its holder, and then we'll resubmit it off to PSA.
Looking forward to it.
I have one other thing that I want to talk about, just a little bit of a PSA, public service announcement, not actual grading company. I have started to notice that there are some people in the hobby giving advice, trading advice on cryptos. I've spent the better part of my adult life in the financial markets and listened to some of these things that these people are talking about, and they have absolutely no idea what the fuck they're talking about. So this is a warning to you people. I know that a lot of you listen to some of these other podcasts or watch some of these other people on Instagram, and they're giving bad advice. They're not stating right facts. They're not stating accurate information. So just as a warning, do not listen to somebody who hosts a sports card podcast give you financial advice about trading cryptocurrencies. Just a friendly warning to people. Literally heard it twice in the last week. Blatantly false information and or just making some stuff up. Either for the purposes of content or just because they thought they knew what they were talking about. So just throwing that out there for everybody.
And right, and for what it's worth, the only information I know from cryptocurrency is through hobby people. So when Jeff yelled at me about some of the stuff about that I was discussing, I didn't do anything about it yet, but he I'm going to listen to Jeff because Jeff knows what he's talking about when it comes to this stuff. So I'm not going to take all this information I've received from the hobby on cryptocurrency. I'm personally going to listen to Jeff.
And with that being said, we're not going to give out any trading advice in regards to anything other than sports cards because we're a sports card podcast. As I said, I know technical analysis inside and out. I've done it for my adult life, but still, we're not going to do that because that's not what we do. So there's plenty of good information out there. There's plenty of sources that you can find information on. Do not get your crypto buying advice from people that literally, number one, most of these people weren't even doing sports cards for for more than the last year or two. And B, most of these people do other shit. They have no, sort of training or knowledge or history or anything in investing or trading or anything else. So, just as we say with our, sports card advice, do your homework, do your research, make sure you have a grip on whatever it is you're doing before you spend any money. I think that's it. We're coming up on about an hour for today. Anything else you want to talk about?
No, hopefully this week will be upcoming week will be more packed with some more hobby news. Maybe we'll get some more release data and start talking about that stuff.
Yeah, I think there's some stuff coming up here in the next couple of weeks. So hopefully, I'm really hoping that Prism Football releases. I think that's supposed to be releasing. Let me actually.
I think people are going to be
look.
starving for that so bad. I think you're going to be surprised at some of the prices.
Let's see.
Whether you agree with them or not.
So this week you got Allen and Ginter for baseball.
Chrome is out.
Yeah, Panini Flux basketball. I don't even know what that is. Impeccable Football coming out next 17th. It looks like pro uniform. So that's Impeccable's a high-end product, right?
I wouldn't call it high-end, but
yeah, I mean they got some solid autos and patch autos in there based on what I'm seeing here. It's a $6,000 case. Let's see.
How many boxes?
3-box case, $6,000, so it's $2,000 a box.
Oh, well then I would consider that high end, yes.
Let's see, we also got Bowman Inception coming out, and then next week
the return of Bowman Inception.
Nothing. Let's see, Star Wars, Upper Deck Hockey, WWE, Dynasty, Baseball, and then Flawless Baseball the week of Friday the 24th. And then here we go, the week of the 29th.
Should be Bowman's best.
Let's see. Historic autographs. Upper Deck MVP Hockey. Bowman Draft. Bowman Draft Jumbo. More Upper Deck Hockey. No mention of Prism Football.
Wow. And there's already rumors that Bowman Draft is not coming out.
Topps Transcendent comes out New Year's Eve. Collection baseball case. National Treasures Racing. And then Bowman's Best listed for New Year's Eve.
Best release of the year.
Is that what you're excited about?
Every year. My favorite product.
Let's see if there's any Prism here. Prism Premier League, Prism Draft Picks. Alright, so it looks like they pushed Prism Football back to the last week of January.
Holy cow.
So that's another 6 weeks away before Prism Football releases. And the week of the 26th, we're already into playoffs for football.
Unreal.
Let's see if we got a National Treasures release here. Oh,
I see Obsidian Football in February. I see Panini Limited Football in February.
Yeah, no national treasures listed.
No, nope. Just the NT Racing.
Interesting.
So we're just gonna stop football cards altogether.
Yeah, Select and National Treasures will come out during.
Spectra, and then that's it.
Yeah, they'll come out during summertime.
Buy baseball cards.
Yeah, we'll have 2021 coming out during camps next year. All right, well, we've droned on long enough. Yeah, once again, any questions that you want answered on the podcast by a non-angry host, send it to info@sportscardadvantage.com. Happy to answer them on the podcast. And follow us on social media, SportsCardADVTG. We'll see you all next week.